It's blue-white weekend in Happy Valley, but before tomorrow's spring game, some baseball here at Medler Field as Penn State baseball hosts the Nebraska Cornhuskers for a 3-game series. Hey everybody, I'm Brandon Pelter, and this is We Are Sports. Star, welcome guys. We had a game today. It was supposed to be 6:30 start because of the weather coming in. Things pushed up and a tough 3-2 loss for this Penn State squad. Had the early lead, but gave it up in that 6th inning.
Yeah, Dante Biasi did pitch really well today, scoreless through 5, but a little hiccup in the 6th inning. He had some control issues today, 6 walks for the usual guy that doesn't walk a lot of people. So a little uncharacteristic outing today for Biasi.
And offensively for Penn State, those 2 runs in the first inning off of Matt Waldron, but couldn't muster anything the rest of the last 8 innings. 3 hits the rest of the way for Penn State. Couple of leadoff base runners, but couldn't get them home to score and come back in this one.
We take a look at the box score from today, pretty much identical to Wednesday night's loss against Pitt, where Penn State puts up 2 runs early on. They get out ahead in that 2nd inning, but then they go silent. The bats, tough to come by.
Yeah, they just ran into a buzzsaw today in terms of Waldron. Pitched really well outside of that 1st inning, went all the way through 7. Didn't allow a lot of base runs, maybe 3 or 4 the rest of his time pitching, and he was dealing today. He shows why he had that 1.64 ERA coming in.
Jordan Bowersox had 2 hits today, but Penn State, the rest of the lineup, only 1 or none for the rest of them, and couldn't muster a bunch of hits in a row, couldn't connect hits together to string together some runs.
Well, we mentioned Dante Biasi got the start for this Penn State squad as we take a look at some of the highlights from this afternoon's game. Biasi, usually that ace for this Penn State squad. While he worked through some of his struggles, he only gave up 2 runs, gets the no decision today.
Yeah, kind of an up and down outing. He had trouble in the 1st, 3rd, and 5th, allowed a couple of runners in each of those innings, but it just felt like it was finally going to catch up to him with how many runners he allowed and how many walks he gave up, and they got to him in the 6th with the 2-run homer. So it just seemed like a matter of time kind of outing for Biasi.
He was able to battle through those 6 walks, had a few strikeouts, but and he had some leadoff runners early on in innings and was able to work through that and get out of it up until that 6th inning. So if you're Rob Cooper, you like what you saw from him battling not with his best stuff today and still able to give you 5 strong innings, but in the end gave up that 2-run home run and Penn State had to come back.
That to Joe Acker, or rather Keegan Watson, and then Mojo Hagee scores that go-ahead run in the 3rd inning, or rather 6th inning, as Mason Malott comes in trying to slam the door. This Penn State pitching squad has been one of the top parts of this Penn State team. They came together again today and put together a full effort, but the hitting and the bats pretty much silent outside of Jordan Bowersox. He went 2 for 4.
Yeah, Mason Malott came in and huge for the bullpen, especially with the doubleheader coming up tomorrow, to go 4 innings essentially and only give up the 1 run and extend that bullpen, at least give him some life going to those 2 games tomorrow. So that, to me, sticks out as the biggest positive for Penn State in this game here today.
Penn State came out aggressive in the 1st inning, trying to swing early in counts against Matt Waldron, and it worked in the 1st inning, getting those 2 runs across 4 hits. But after that, getting deep into counts, falling behind Matt Waldron is a good pitcher, one of the best in the Big Ten, was able to put Penn State hitters away.
And as you guys said, a doubleheader tomorrow. First pitch at 3 o'clock of Game 1. Game 2 will follow about 45 minutes after the first, as opposed to games tomorrow and on Sunday. So if you want to come out or even following the blue-white game, can certainly come here to check things out. Now, we said earlier this game, or this series rather, was going to be huge for both of these teams. Big Ten implications, especially for this Penn State team, struggling. Just 1 win in conference play so far.
Yeah, 2 teams kind of in opposite directions in the Big Ten. Nebraska came in at 7-2, Penn State 1-7. You think about getting into the Big Ten tournament. If you're Penn State, you got to be in the top 8. Sitting there down the bottom of the standings right now. They did win a game at Indiana last weekend. Not a hard place, not an easy place rather to win, but a frustrating effort today in a game that they feel like they really could have won, especially with the way the pitching was today.
Yeah, it seems for Penn State, a lot of times they're only in these games when Dante Biasi's on the mound. They're going to need the rest of that staff, Bailey Dees, Eric Mock, to start getting together some better starts and helping this team win games when Biasi isn't on the mound.
Well, in addition to the importance with the 12-game stretch that this Penn State team has had, starting out hot, a nearly historic start, one of the best starts for this team in nearly 40 years, going 11-3. they've tapered off a ton now, 17-13 after today's loss.
Yeah, well, and it really shows you how tough the Big Ten is at all. You know, they ran into Minnesota, gave them a lot of trouble. We mentioned Indiana already, and they've played some quality competition here. And it showed that this Penn State team isn't quite where they want to be yet. So the Nittany Lions, need to pick up a couple of wins, hopefully at least get a split tomorrow, feel better about themselves going into the home stretch of the Big Ten season.
Yeah, and coming in on the weekday games this week, Youngstown State, Penn State blew a lead, had to come back, and then they were able to win on that walk-off, and then they lost to Pitt. So it was a bounce back for Penn State to be in a close game tonight, or rather this afternoon, but still unable to get that comeback completed.
Rain just starting here at Medler Field at Lebrano Park. Exactly why the game was moved up here earlier this afternoon, so the right decision was made. Now let's take a look at some of the stats, fellas. Penn State and their pitching staff, it's pretty much been live and die by them. The bats have not been there, although this week alone in the 2 midweek games, they gave up over 20 runs. The ERA had been inflated here.
Yeah, and it's frustrating. You have a game against Youngstown State where you score 16 runs, and you have that kind of offensive output, and then you come out against Nebraska, you pitch well, you only give up 3, and then you end up taking the loss. So really up and down week here for Penn State. You should taking the lead against Pittsburgh early and then losing, much like they did today. So a frustrating couple games for the Lions.
Yeah, especially when you have Dante Biasi, not his best stuff today, as we mentioned, but still only gave up 2 runs. Mason Malott comes in, only gives up 1 more. 3 runs. The team had 7 hits. You would think that might be enough to win a game, especially, like I said, you only give up 3 runs, but only 2 across in the first inning. And after that, not much doing offensively for the Nittany Lions. So they have to find a way to be more consistent on the offense.
And it's also a Nebraska pitching staff that hasn't fared too well either in their own right.
Yeah, I mean, they have one of the worst ERAs in the Big Ten. They're a team that, they scored 13 runs a game in the series against Purdue, but those were a couple of close games in there. So they rely too much on the offense. And you see when you put out a 3-run type of effort like they did today, it might end up costing. Penn State not strong enough to finish the job today, but in terms of the rest of the Big Ten, that could be problematic for the Huskers.
Yeah, but especially Matt Waldron, who pitched today, he's one of the best pitchers in the Big Ten, a 1.76 ERA on the season. If they have him going well, they can maybe get by with a couple other starters not being great as long as the offense can build up some runs.
Well, we said that it's been a tough stretch for this Penn State squad, but who has impressed these past 2 weeks or so for the Nittany Lions?
Well, I think it's Malott, again, with the huge effort today. Gives up 1 run in the 4 innings. Again, preserves the bullpen for tomorrow. Had a couple of strikeouts tonight. Had the only caught-looking strikeout of the entire game. And he just had good stuff today. Yeah, he gives up the 1 run in the 6th inning, but it was when he just came in. Mock had just given up the 2-run homer. So he played really well today, and he's been some consistent outings over the last couple of weeks as well.
And for me, it's Jordan Bowerstocks, the senior leader on this team in the outfield, coming in after today. 333 average, leads the team. He's got the job done. 2 for 4 today, just Penn State. The rest of the offense couldn't muster any runs.
Well, hopefully this Penn State team can pick up like the rain has behind us, getting hot quickly because they've gone 5-7 the last 12 games. Nebraska, though, 9-3, although that's a little bit misleading.
Yeah, they played some teams like Michigan State and Kansas, both with sub-500 records. A tough loss against Creighton earlier this week, but again, the series they had against Purdue's a pretty solid team. They were up near the top of the Big Ten last year. So it's not like they've played the best competition, but there are some wins in there that you go, okay, yeah, that's a pretty good team that they beat.
Yeah, and they played teams like Minnesota and Purdue, like you mentioned. Penn State 0-5 against those teams. Nebraska able to get a win out of a few of those games. So, they were able to get the job done in closer games when Penn State wasn't able to get wins in the Big Ten.
Well, with that, we take a look at the Big Ten standings. And for Penn State, well, no secret, it's been a tough start to Big Ten play, 1-8, and they're sitting at the bottom.
Yeah, again, you've got to look at that, trying to get to that 8 spot and get to the Big Ten tournament. Because you get to the Big Ten tournament, you never know what's going to happen in that kind of venue. But sitting at the bottom now, a lot of work to do for this team. The schedule doesn't get any easier. There aren't really any bad teams in the Big Ten. So Penn State needs to figure it out quickly, or else they're going to be sitting at an early offseason yet again.
Woo! It's really picking up here, fellas. But we will continue. It's a big weekend, and it continues. Your keys for Penn State this weekend.
For me, it's the offense being more consistent. They got a couple of hits in the early innings here, but tomorrow They need to be more consistent, get runs across, and be able to knock in those leadoff hitters that get on base.
I think it's the bullpen. They played really well today in terms of what Malott did, but that's been a question mark in terms of games, especially against Pitt and Youngstown State. So bullpen, especially in a doubleheader, going to use a lot of those guys. So hopefully they can put out a good effort tomorrow.
A doubleheader tomorrow, game starting at 3 o'clock, first pitch. If you're at Blue White, be sure to come on over after that. But for Josh Starr and Tom Shiley, the rest of our crew here at Medler Field at Lebrano Park, where we are sports, Brandon Pelter saying so long.